Good morning and welcome to Old Man Energy. I'm your host, Flint Anderson. Thank you for joining us today. If this is your first time with us, this is a hell of an episode to start on. And if you're coming back for more, then you're either a glutton for punishment or you're finding some value in what it is I'm talking about. Either way, we're glad you're here and hope you stay till the end. I usually give away some free stuff and try and give you some value. If you find something in this that hits home and maybe strikes a nerve, then share it with your friends. Let everybody know I don't run ads, and attention is what keeps this train rolling. So please like, share, all the different things you're going to find at the bottom. Today, this episode builds on the last two. And we spent a lot of time talking about weaponizing your children, how children are being hurt. I think I'm going to have this episode and one more. This episode's going to touch a lot of nerves, so to speak. I've gotten some hate. I've gotten some love on the last few episodes talking about ways to work with your children. If you need my pedigree, go listen to one of the other episodes. It's in there. But suffice to say, I'm an expert at this and I know what the hell I'm talking about. This episode's going to be about parenting and specifically lazy parenting. And then I'm going to do a follow-up episode about being a couple and how to stay happily married and how to be the parents your kids need. One thing also is after this year, some of my merch is going to be going away. But right now, after this episode, if you want to go grab the shirt that says "Be the Father You Needed," then do that, because it's going to be one of those that's being retired. Links in the bottom for that. So let's get into this today and just start. If you're going to be irritated and if this strikes a nerve, then you know what? You might be the parent that I'm talking about here, because I've got a lot to say and I've got a lot of observations that I have seen. And understand, everything that I do and teach you guys is from a position of love and it's from a position of caring, and it's an attempt to pass my legacy and my experience and my wife's experience to some set whenever she decides to join us on to the next generation and make hopefully your life a little better because of what skills you're able to implement. So if you only find one or two things in this to help, awesome, then maybe that'll make a difference. But if you also find something that irritates you or pisses you off, one, please tell me about it, because I need to know. And number two, maybe, just maybe, it's time to do a little self-exploration and find out if that thing that's pissing you off is because it's right. I've said a ton of times in many different places that we are a generation of fatherless children being raised by a generation of fatherless children. And we're now working on the third generation of single parent children. And sometimes with the digital age and the digital era, it's now that even if there are two parents in the household, the children are still coming out as if it were a one-parent household, because the parents are so distracted and because the screen parenting, so to speak, is also a distraction. And this creates some incredibly lonely people. And even though we are more connected than we've ever been before, and I'm not going to focus on the adult side of things, but this is true for adults as it is for children. Even though we are more connected and closer connected to millions of people than we've ever been in the history of humanity, we are more isolated and we are more alone than we've ever been. And some of those skills, that interpersonal skills that we need as humans, are decaying and even becoming non-existent. And it's creating holes and it's creating some odd behaviors that we need to address. And as parents, we're some of the only people that can address this in our homes. If you want to hear talking about children, you want to hear talking about parents, separated parents, ways to protect your children, things like that, then go listen to a couple of the other episodes. Before I get into this too much, I want to talk about one comment that I was given, and I don't remember the user's name, but talking about that you should love your spouse first. I absolutely believe that when you're done raising children, you and your spouse still have to like each other, which is why I'm going to do an entire episode on that next. For this purpose, in spouses that are separated or households that have tension among the parents, we're talking about placing the children first. And that's absolutely critical. So I wanted to clarify that, because I don't want there to be any confusion. The foundation of a strong family is a mother and a father that are completely aligned with one another and moving forward. Now, you don't have to be married for that, but it's easier. You don't have to be cohabitating for that, but it's easier. But if you are not in alignment with your spouse or the mother or father of your children, then those children come first. And that's to clarify that statement. So that being said, let's jump into some absolutely terrifying statistics and what we can do about them. Kids are drowning in screens these days. They suffer from anxiety. They have fake identities. They don't even know who they are sometimes, and digital addictions. I'm going to tell you why this is. And a lot of you understand already that your children are confused And the reason they're being confused, we used to say they were being confused because they were being raised by the television. But here's the thing. Most parents are so buried in their own screens that they don't even see their children slipping right by them. And I'm not talking about just the relationships, although I'm going to dive into that, but I'm talking about they're allowing strangers on the outside direct access to their children's developing brain through screens because they're lazy. Not their children, the parents are lazy. It's much easier to put a digital pacifier in front of a kid than it is to actually parent them. And we're too stupid as parents sometimes to know what's actually happening here. It'd be the equivalent of giving your children alcohol so they go to sleep easier, or excessive amounts of melatonin because you're tired and you don't want to deal with it. And yes, I know this happens from time to time. So we're giving our children digital benzos so that we can parent easier, so that we can spend more time allowing strangers direct access to our subconscious mind and be influenced by these screens. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, I don't really care. All you have to do is go out in public and observe. Go into any restaurant. I'll go to any playground and watch what happens. 90% of the parents are sitting there staring at their phones instead of their children. In a restaurant, there'll be people at a table, families. We were traveling over Thanksgiving, and I noticed this in a restaurant, a full, huge restaurant. We were eating breakfast at. Des and I were sitting there, and we were talking, and we were chatting, and we have our phones with us at all times. And given what I do, I spend a lot of time on my phone, way too much. I've made it a point to put this down and start observing, especially in anticipation of this episode. But in looking around, we're sitting there having a conversation over breakfast, as one does. And this entire full restaurant, there were tables of people on vacation, purportedly spending time with one another. And every single one of them, parents, children, grandparents, all of them had their nose in their phone. They were either watching TV or interacting or texting someone else. Kids aren't the problem in this scenario. Parents are. You've got to stop being such a lazy parent that you allow other people that you don't know to raise your children and influence their decisions. Used to get other people or outside influences to influence their decision, kids had to read a book. You had to go read an author that was maybe controversial or what have you. And I've talked about that in the past. I was heavily influenced by what I read, but I had to work for it. And because of that, it hit my brain differently. It wasn't taken as automatic fact. It was just a different way to look at the world. And I decided which of those things I believed and what I wanted to do with my life, instead of somebody bypassing my conscious directly into my subconscious and influencing me with tons of test data, research, and information designed to bypass and hit directly at my subconscious to elicit and control my behavior. You guys can go look these statistics up. They're not secret, but they're terrifying. The average teen in America spends almost 9 hours a day on their phone. Now, I want you to let that sink in. We're only awake at best 16 hours a day, 9 of them staring at a small square box that's completely interactive and designed to be as addictive as possible. Half of all teenagers spend 4 hours or more every single day in front of their screen. And 40% of them push past 8 hours. That's where that average comes from. So if you're average, 9's the median, which means that there's about half of the population that's spending more, teenage population, that's spending more time on their phone than 9 hours a day. That's terrifying. That would be the equivalent of sitting in a movie theater as a job and doing nothing, watching all the time. By the time children hit middle school, this is 10 or 11 for those of you that your kids haven't got there yet, maybe 12, most children have already been exposed to some sort of hardcore pornography. Porn is rampant in today's society, and even the states that have taken steps to outlaw it, it's still easily accessible by different searches and by companies designed specifically to bypass those searches. 12 years old is the average age for children to have been exposed excessively to porn. And I think at this point, any exposure to porn for children is excessive. But for this consideration, this is 10 years old, and a few of them as young as 8 years old are exposed to hardcore pornography. This alters your brain chemistry. A developing child's brain is not prepared for this. And if you are a parent that seems to think that this is okay, well, then you are the fucking problem. There should be no parent out there that agrees with me that hardcore pornography should be exposed to children under 18, if at all. But at least at 18, you're considered an adult, although your brain's not being developed at that point. And this is something that they have instant access to on their phone, on the screen that we hand them because we're too fucking lazy to sit down and spend time with our children interacting with them. The thing is, and this is the part that parents don't want to look at, they learn this behavior from watching you spend hours inside of a video game. They sit there staring at your back, wanting your attention, and all they get is rejection. They're told to leave them alone, to leave you alone, to go away. You're busy. And then when you're not on the video game, they see you staring at the phone, or they see you texting with people, or they see you FaceTiming with people, all of which tells these children that everything else is more important in your life than they are. Every single thing that you do that takes away time from your children shows them that you love other things more than they do. So not only are they exposed to absolutely the worst of humanity, and we'll do posturing by saying, okay, well, then we need to protect children from pedophiles that are on Roblox or they're on Minecraft or this or that. You know what? All of that is true. And we do need to protect our children from that. But we also need to protect our children from ourselves. We need to protect our children from the abandonment and the alienation that comes from the adults spending 7 to 9 hours a day on their screen. Now, you combine that with the time you spend working, and you have an epidemic in this country and maybe in the world. I don't know. I just pulled stats on things that are happening in this country. 48% of adults say they feel addicted to their phone. They cannot put it down. 85% of people, 85% out of 100 people, that's 85. That's only 15 people that don't check their phone before they even get out of bed. And I'm not talking about turning your alarm off, which your alarm shouldn't be integrated in your phone anyway. I know this morning there was a big iOS update, and there was a lot of people late for work because that iOS update included canceling alarms. As an employer, this created a huge problem, and I'm wondering out there if some people lost their job because of that. So we are way too dependent on our phones. Parents, you take your phone to the bathroom, you keep your phone at the dinner table, and you take it to the playground, which I mentioned earlier, like it's another child. But the only difference is you're giving your phone and your screen time more attention. Could be video games, doesn't have to be phone. It's just most of it's phones. You're giving them more attention than you are your children. So we need to quit pretending like the digital chaos in our homes is uncontrollable and that it's just, oh, we're a victim here of this massive digital tsunami and there's nothing that I can do about it. This is not a systemic problem. This is a modeling problem because kids imitate what they see. So you have kids that don't have access to phones because maybe they're quote unquote too young, but they have a tablet, which we give those to children in strollers. They'll draw fake phones with apps on them and they'll pretend like they're on there because kids model what they see from us. And if you're treating your phone like it's oxygen, like you can't live without it, then your kids are going to be doing the exact same thing. And as soon as they're able to, they're going to treat it like it's life support. You're not parenting when you're handing your children screens. You're pacifying. That's all you're doing. You're kicking the can down the road so you don't have to deal with this shit right now. And here's another thing. Your first instinct is going to be to go in your house and ban all screens and all forms of technology. Well, you know what? That's not the solution either. Because then you're not teaching your kids any skills on how to protect themselves or what they should do. And I'm going to share an example of this particular style and one of the failures that we had, or that I had in particular, because this was all led by me. I can't blame Des for any of this. With our youngest daughter, she was addicted to technology very young. And this was back years ago in the early phases of it. And we did what most parents did. We were giving our kids tablets for Christmas and they played games on them. We all thought it was pretty innocent. Well, when we found out that she was using that to communicate with people outside of the house, we took them away. We banned her from all screens, no phone, no screens, no nothing. She was a teenager at this point in high school. She found a way to get online because I wasn't teaching her the skills that she needed to deal with what she needed to do with the online danger and everything else, that she would steal phones. She would borrow old phones from her friends. She would do whatever she could do to get back online to feed that addiction. And I looked at that as a failure in parenting on my end. I could have done better. I don't know what I could have done better at this point in going back, but you know what? It doesn't matter that I didn't know what to do at the time. It was my responsibility to figure out. She was the child. And all of you out there struggling with this, your children are not responsible for figuring out how to deal with this. This is you as parents' responsibility to figure out how to deal with this. Our brains have the same reaction, and children especially, to scrolling through your phones as dopamine hits, as we do to sedatives, as we do to alcohol, as we do to any digitally altering substance. You can get that from an electronic version of that. And our children are as addicted to it as we are. It's almost like we're handing screens and say, here you go. Go numb yourself for a while I continue to ignore my life and ignore you. And then we're both sitting there scrolling and we call it spending time together. There's even a joke. So there's nobody in my life I'd rather sit on the couch and scroll my phone next to than you. So we're disassociating with one another while sitting right beside each other. We are existing in the same room in two completely different worlds. And oftentimes as parents, we have no idea the world that our children are living in and the evil that's entering our home and entering their brain. And then when we send our children to school and they can't focus or they can't clean their room or they can't do things for longer than a few seconds because we've trained them that that's how long their attention span needs to be, we're shocked. Or when our children, our teenagers specifically, coming into age with all these hormones, and now you have this porn in the mix of it, and you have all of these influencers telling them how they should be feeling. And when they're not feeling that way, it leads to anxiety and depression. And then they react with anger, or they're addicted to their phone and you take it away from them or their screen. And then they react violently because they don't know how to regulate their emotions because you haven't fucking taught them. All those micro moments that you miss while they're growing up, and not just the things that can create beautiful long-term memories, but all those opportunities at correction that don't matter seemingly on the front side because they're so small. Because it's 1,000 corrections over the course of years that shape our personalities, that we as responsible adults and parents are required to teach our children to make them functional members of society. That we're shocked when our kids' phones have more influence over them than we do. And then we try and react by going the other direction. We get mad at our children when all they're doing is looking for direction, and now they're confused because all they've done is model our behavior using the tools that we gave them. Stop being lazy parents. There's a reason that go touch some grass is a millennial almost insult, but it's really not. It just means to back away from the screens and go outside and look around and see what reality is going on. Because a lot of the older millennial generation that was raised in this, they're starting to realize how detrimental all of this is. And as adults, they now have the ability to disconnect. Not all of them. Some of them are suffering from a real digital addiction. Your child doesn't need another app. They don't need another screen. They need a parent. They need somebody who's going to sit down and talk to them and listen to them and not just validate their feelings, explore their feelings with them and try and help them understand how to deal with what they're feeling. Because if your child has the guts to come to you and talk to you about how they're feeling and you tell them they're wrong, they're going to eventually stop telling you that. Or you tell them don't worry about it or it's not important, they're going to go find the answers to that somewhere. And if they stop telling you because you tell them they're wrong or you react in anger, or worse, you brush them off, you're not even going to know that you lost your children. You're not even going to know that that child now feels abandoned and is going to go get answers to what they're dealing with because they don't have any choice but to learn to regulate their own emotions inside of themselves. And whether that's done in a healthy way or an unhealthy way is completely up to you as a parent. But they're going to do it one way or another. They need you to parent them in real time. They need you to spend time with them. And that could be playing a board game. It could be reading a book. It could be just talking. And one thing you're going to discover is little kids are cool. They figure stuff out. A lot of times it's not exactly right, but they take different paths to solutions and they need to feel the freedom to explore that with their parents. They need a real parent. They need a present parent. They need a parent that's not outsourcing love and affection and time to a glowing 2-inch by 4-inch rectangle shoved in their face while they shove their own glowing 2-inch by 4-inch rectangle. We are literally creating the society that was portrayed in Wall-E faster than you could even imagine. Everybody has a phone stuck in their face. And if you're listening to this and you're one of the people that this is hitting home for, and you're thinking, well, it's not that bad, let me spell out to you exactly what's happening in your child's brain right now. And I've seen this happen with my grandkids. I've seen it happen to some set with my kids. And I've seen this happen with other people's children over and over and over again. Your kid is absorbing more information from strangers online than from you. We've already talked about that. They are currently forming, I don't care how old your child is, they're currently forming their identity, their worldview, their sexuality, their values, their emotional regulation. And all of this is coming not from family, not from your values, but from algorithms designed to create addiction and consumption. Let that sink in for a while. Because you're being lazy, you are ruining your child's ability to deal with the future of their life. And if you don't take back control of this environment will continue to raise your children. You are not going to like the results. You're going to have constant strife. But more likely to happen is somewhere along the way, you're going to lose your child and you're no longer ever going to be emotionally connected to them because they won't let you, because they no longer care, because they understand that you care more about that digital world that you've placed yourself in and shoved them out of than you do about them. And they got tired of having their heart broken every time they wanted some of your time, or having you react in anger every time that they stood up and tried to reach out to you and wanted you to be proud of them and wanted you to be present for them and wanted you to be there for them. They will eventually stop. They might fight with you as a teenager, and at least then you have some sort of an engagement, but your life is going to be hell. They're going to be miserable, and they're going to put you through the same kind of hell that you've been emotionally putting them through since they were children. That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is they master the art of being a chameleon. They master the art of disappearing. And you're going to look at this as a good child. Oh, they don't cause me any problems. They're quiet. They stay on top of everything. They clean their room. They do what they need to do. And the whole time they're down this rabbit hole. They're being raised by other people. And they're not being a good child because they want to. They're being a good child because you trained them to leave you the fuck alone. And that's exactly what they're doing. And you will never, as adults, engage with them on any sort of fundamental level, because as soon as they can leave and get out and live their own life, which now is a pathetic hell and shell of what it could have been, because now it's based on algorithms that you don't even control, they won't talk to you again. And you're going to be old and lonely and don't know what the fuck happened. This is your future. This is what you are training your children to do right now. And it's happening under your nose, whether you like it or not. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again. And I watch it happen daily in the lives of the children and the adults that are around me. And it's the most pathetic thing I've ever seen, because nobody seems to think that there's a problem. The children, it's not their responsibility for it to develop the understanding that this is a problem. They're just modeling their parents' behavior. And parents, they think that life is so overwhelming and so hard that you shouldn't get out there and try harder for your children. Well, you know what? Your children didn't ask to be here. You had them. They can't throw that back up in your face. Well, I didn't ask to be there. Well, none of us asked to be here. But if you do have children, it's your responsibility to care for them. It's your responsibility to love them. It's your responsibility to guide them. And I don't give a shit if you like that or not. That's what happens. That's the responsibility that goes along with being a parent. Quit outsourcing your children's future to people you don't understand and then wondering why they watch weird videos on YouTube that you don't understand. It's manipulating and controlling and changing your child's brain chemistry. It's time to wake up. I'm not blaming just parents. I'm blaming the environment. I'm blaming society. This is what this is designed to do, but you can wake up. You can remove yourself from this situation, but you have to remove yourself, and then you have to remove your children. This is not easy. This is war. This is a digital battlefield that's being fought for your attention. And right now you're giving your attention more to your screen than you are to your children. You want a terrifying statistic. And whatever version of phone you have this. Go look up your screen time statistics. I know Instagram has it. I believe Facebook has it. But your phone has it. It'll tell you how long you were on your screen last week, how long you were on your screen this week, today, all of that stuff. Go look it up. It's time to get up, parents. It's time to get up. It's time to step up. It's time to remember what your fucking job is in your household and start raising your kids instead of sedating them. Take this time. Get finished with this episode after you've liked and subscribed, because I'm going to continue helping you guys through this and telling you ways and tips and tools and tricks that you can do. But I want you to put your phones down. I want you to shut everything off for a little while. Take some time to face those demons in the dark. They're not as bad as you think, but you might realize some stuff about yourself. You might find out how addicted you are to your phone. And then you might look around and you might see those children. They're still there waiting for you to lead them, waiting for you to love them, waiting for you to show them how much you love them by spending time with them that's not compromised or split between somebody on FaceTime or a text message or another YouTube video or any one of the 1,000 things that we do that we show our children are more important than we are. Love your children. They're worth it. And they're the only hope we've got. It is not too late. But if you feel overwhelmed because of this, then you are the problem and you need to fix it because you're the adult. Stand up, pull your pants up, figure out how to get off your own damn phone so you can help your children get off theirs. You might find you have a really cool little person living in your life, living in your house, and it is a part of your life. You might find you like hanging out with them. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't wait until you've lost them, because once that's gone, it's gone forever. You don't get that back, and it's slipping away from you 1 second at a time, one video at a time, 30 seconds at a time, as you scroll, as you play, as you tell them everything is more important than they are. I love you guys. I hope this helps.